Well, welcome everyone. I just wanted to share a little bit with you from our perspective of working for over 30 years with parents and their need to do speeches of telling their story. So one of the things that we ask people to keep in mind is which story they should be telling. We all have many stories and many aspects of our lives that make great stories. And coming out stories are not the only ones that we have to share. So be aware of who your audience is and who you're talking to, and tell different stories about yourselves if they're relevant. And also remember that stories can be positive. They don't always need to be about a negative thing that happened. So keep them positive as well. We often assume that because our stories are so personal that we don't need to practice them, but we do need to practice them. We need to go over them to make sure that we have a beginning, a middle, an end, that we don't ramble, that we don't add extra details that we don't need, and that we keep it in a concise way that will benefit the listener. You want to make sure that you tie up your story at the end and actually ask people to do something. All of our stories are very compelling to people, but you want to make sure that you're not just compelling them to think, but to actually do something. When asked, people are more likely to stand up and do something than if they're never asked. So it's good to make a point at the end of your telling of your story to actually ask people to do something. We say to keep it at 3 minutes or less. At some point, if your story gets too long, people will miss the point and will miss what you're saying because they will have zoned out to you. So again, remember to practice, and you're also going to want to get feedback. It's really great to practice telling your story for someone that you know, or also for someone that's a colleague that might not know your story, but that can provide good feedback, because they can be able to tell you what worked best in your story, what was the most moving for them, and what were points that maybe you can improve on how you tell it. If you're going to record your story and send it in, which we encourage you to do, it's also a great idea to watch the recording and review it before you send it in. You don't have to send in the first recording that you do or the first thing that you produce. So go ahead, look it over, and then send it in. Some more things to just keep in mind as you're telling your story. Be aware of how you do things when you are nervous or when you're under pressure. Body language is important to keep in mind as well. Open arms are a sign of open body language, whereas crossed arms are defensive. Many of us make a lot of gestures when we're talking, and that's fine, but you don't want your gestures to distract from what you're saying. As far as location, you don't want the background to distract from what you're saying. And also, you want to keep in mind what you're wearing. You want to wear something that's simple and doesn't distract people, again, from you. It's important and a great idea to wear the organization's buttons or T-shirt to keep people focused on what you're talking about, but you don't want to go overboard. Wearing one is plenty. And finally, think about what you're talking about and who your audience is and how much they're aware of what you're talking about. Acronyms can be a big problem for many of us. We get so stuck in them. So make sure that you're spelling out LGBT, PFLAG, and other organizations that you talk about. Also be aware of insider and outsider language. We're all very familiar with terms like don't ask, don't tell, and marriage equality, but not everyone is. So make sure that you're spelling those things out and explaining what they are. And that's it for me. Thank you.